It's Tuesday, April 27, 2021. This is episode 184. How do I sell a house without a realtor? It's 39.6 Facebook and YouTube live finance show that teaches high earners like yourselves how to make your money work for you so you don't have to work for your money. Talk general investing, taxes, real estate, syndications, Airbnb, paying for college, paying for childcare, and even the car you drive. Today's episode, how do I sell a house without a realtor, episode number 184. This question comes from a Facebook group. Person asks, has anyone ever sold a home without a realtor? My current tenant would like to purchase my home directly from me, and he's offered an acceptable price for me. I'm not sure, however, about the process and how to proceed from there. Thank you. All right, so I'm in a similar situation. My first rental property is probably going to come full circle. Okay. I have a tenant, and lease is coming up at the end of June, and I'm probably going to sell it. More on that when we kind of get closer to it and gets listed. But with the market appreciation, I thought now would be a good time to exit that property. It's a small property. It's not necessarily worth my time to deal with it. And the lease is coming up. And we were getting to the point where we had to decide if we were going to offer the tenant an extension to offer to release. And I do this on an annual basis or every 2 years, depending what the lease is. I don't usually like to do month-to-month options. And so we were approaching 60 days out, and I asked my property manager for a market analysis to see what it would go for. And then we decided to ask the tenant, and the tenant actually is not interested in buying, but it sounded like he was actually interested in getting another apartment. So fine. But I was thinking, well, I could sell directly to this guy. It would be really easy, and I wouldn't have to deal with listing it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but not interested. However, if I were to go through this process with this tenant, simply all you need to do is have the paperwork and get it taken care of. So usually, like, you go through a title agency and you get a real estate attorney at the title agency. They drop the paperwork, both parties sign. Assuming you already have the terms all agreed, you just document those terms. You both sign on the contract. It's just a purchase agreement, and you let your title company take care of all the paperwork for that transfer. Now, if there's financing involved, well, then the buyer would have to go get their financing and get that all taken care of in time for closing. But you don't necessarily need a realtor to buy or sell a property. And there's 3% commissions usually on each side of the deal, 6%. So if you're the seller, you could potentially save 6% if you go direct to the buyer. Now, realtors definitely have a place in real estate transactions, and they do often help one side and or the other. They represent them. They have a lot of experience, and they can often help the seller sell at a higher price, even net of commissions. And they can help the buyer often get also better terms or better things. So that's for another conversation. But if you just want to transact and you already have everything agreed upon, all you really need is a title agency with a real estate attorney, and just drop the paperwork. Done. If it's a cash process, you can get this done like in a matter of days. Super easy. Now, the person said, the offer was a price that was acceptable for him. Now, that concerns me a little bit, because just because it's acceptable doesn't necessarily mean that's the price you want to take. Now, if this is a small property and the difference might be a matter of $1,000, a few $1,000s, okay, might really not be worth a headache. But I thought I saw something where it would cost another $60,000 to work with realtors. So is this $1 million house? Now, the person who's already there, the tenant, already knows the property, right? So there's a lot of appeal to the seller. You don't have to really worry that they're good with the property. They know what they're getting. But the market is really, really hot right now, and you could potentially get a lot better on the market or opening it up to other buyers without necessarily using a realtor. Okay, so you could do a for sale by owner. You could do a flat fee listing service, which, for example, things like Redfin only charge you like 1%. So technically that's still like a realtor, but lower cost. But then you do usually have to pay the buyer commission of 3%. But you could list it yourself on like Zillow. You can just list your own property online the same way you can list a property for rent. You can list it for sale through Zillow and have schedule appointments for people to see the property and do the showings yourself. And that way you have more buyers because if you only take the one offer, you don't really know what other people would be willing to pay. Right now, it's a seller's market. You could list something at a good price and have a whole bunch of people. And what I would probably do in this type of situation is I would consider listing it like on a Wednesday or a Thursday on a website like Zillow and say that you're going to have an open house on Saturday from a certain time to a certain time. Probably not too long, depending on how many people inquire, because you kind of want people to actually see other people there at the same time. Although you also want to have social distancing and whatnot. But you could back them up like 10 minutes at a time and between like 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock or so on and so forth, but not necessarily the whole day. Just kind of cramp them up so that people see that there's other people interested. And then you ask people for their best offers by Sunday night at 8 p.m. The market is absolutely nuts right now. So a lot of people are waiving contingencies. A lot of people are offering cash. I mean, if you get somebody to offer you cash with no contingencies at a very good price, you just get the paperwork taken care of. And not only can you save yourself that 6%, but transactions happen so fast right now. So you could do that yourself. And you already have a person who wants to buy it. You could still do a showing just to get the tenant to know that you're showing it and that there's other people and other offers. That tenant probably wants the house. The tenant doesn't want to move, right? And it's super competitive right now to get a place. So, you bring over like 10 people to show it over a 3-hour window on a Saturday, then they know, oh, we got to compete with these other people and they're in the same competition as everybody else. You may give them a little bit of a nudge because they're already there. It'll be an easier transaction, but this can push them to be a little bit more competitive, price-wise or terms-wise. So something to consider. But yeah, you don't need a realtor. It's really not that complicated. You just need a title agency with a real estate lawyer and have all the documents drawn up, everybody countersign on it, and then close on the closing date. There you go. That's it. Look at the chat box real fast. Okay. Again, none of this is financial advice, legal advice, any other advice. Simply my entertainment and hopefully yours. Until episode 185. Have a good night.